everybody, my name is Mr. Rope, and welcome back to another video. In this video, obviously, it's going to be another Dredge video. Obviously, duh, that's my thing. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about Zozo's new Dredge video. Now, if you don't know, a couple of days ago, not a couple of days ago, like a week or two ago, whenever I post this, Zozo uploaded a video talking about Dredge specifically, talking about that he's garbage and map reliant. Now, having almost 2,000 hours in playing the character and really studied the character and his add-ons and just his overall ability, I decided to jump on this and do a reaction video on his video. Anyway, no problems with Zozo, by the way. This is a well-made video. I suggest you check him out. He has a trickster video like this too. I haven't really watched any other videos, but this one's really well made, so go and check him out. Oh,
2022. Most longtime DVD fans would agree. It's not really much of a scary game, but in May of 2022, Behavior aimed to set this right. This anniversary, they explicitly set out to create a scary chapter, and they aim to do this with their monstrous new killer, the Dredge. The Dredge has the ability to trap survivors in near total darkness, snatch them up out of hiding places, and teleporter on the map to sneak up on survivors. You could easily see how this could be one of the most oppressive kits in the game. That's why today I wanted to tell you about one of the strongest killers currently in Dead by Daylight. The Dredge. Wait a second, you're telling me that's wrong? Hold on, let me cross-reference my sources really quick.
Okay, I do not agree with this. I believe the Dredge is top of B tier. And then on
Yeah,
some maps
so
like Midwich, he can be low
unfortunately, the
H.
Dredge didn't live up to expectations. But at a first glance, he seems fine to the average player, right? Well, that's because Dredge's problems are very complex and beyond fixing with just simple number buffs. So that's where I come in. Today I'm going to be taking a deep dive into the Dredge to see what kind of problems he has and suggesting solutions on how to fix them. But before we get into all that, I just want to give a massive thank you once again for all the support on my Trickster video. That was a mostly unscripted, giant passion project where I just screamed into the microphone about my thoughts on my favorite killer, so I wasn't really expecting anyone to watch it. But since that video did as well as it did, I figured I might as well take the opportunity to talk about some other killers I've had on my mind. Welcome to yet another DVD case study, where on this episode I'm going to be taking a look at the Dredge. Let me give you a rundown of his power now, since that intro was, just a little bit exaggerated. When charging his power, you have two options, to either teleport to a locker,
Only tiny. Okay,
very slowly.
this is his first point. The Dredge's teleporting ability is actually not that slow. It does feel slow, but it's actually not that slow. It's 12 meters a second. I don't know the percentage rise. I think it's like 360%. I think. But it's really not that slow. And depending on what map you're on, like, basically, you can basically teleport wherever you want as a Dredge. Wherever you want. And during the daytime, you're gonna get there between like 6 or 7 seconds, depending on how far it is. Most of the time, you'll get there between 4 or 3 seconds. If you teleport more mid-map, which normally you will be teleported more mid-map and stuff like that, you don't really teleport across the map a lot. But if you did, it would take you between like 6 or 7, maybe 8 seconds to get there, which it's really not that bad, depending if you really think about it. It just feels really slow. I wish it was a little bit faster, but it mainly just feels more slow than it actually is. And then even if you take the time teleporting to these locations, and yeah, you take the 4 seconds to teleport, or that saves you a lot of time on walking distance. It would take you like uh 15 seconds to get there. Well, now it took you 6 seconds. And so you move a lot faster than you are walking. And then also, when you're teleporting, every second you teleport, you gain 6 charges. So let's say you teleport for 3 seconds. That's 18 charges. That's basically a free hit on getting your Nightfall, which you need 300 charges. So it's really not that bad. I do wish it was a little bit faster, though. Well, like, I don't know, just a little bit faster. That would be nice. Is just to help him overall be more appealing to players because a lot of people don't play him because his teleporting kind of feels sluggish, kinda. Which I hope they fix that and make it faster so encourage more people to play him.
Or to teleport to your remnant, which you leave behind as you start charging the power. This second option is meant to be your chase tool. Exiting a locker or teleporting to the remnant will both put your power on cooldown for 12 entire seconds. This cooldown makes you have to be very careful about when you decide to teleport. For reference, this cooldown is longer than both Blight and Twins' entire powers.
Okay, so the cooldown is a little bit long. I wish it was like 8 or 10 seconds. It is a bit long, a bit much. It does make the dredge really punishing in a way if you mess up teleporting to a Pacific locker or you mess up your remnant in a chase, which if you mess up in a chase, you should be punished for that. That's why it should be like 8 or 10 seconds since when you mess up with your remnant. But I do wish I was a little bit shorter as well. Like, for example, Chucky, he can get the hit a lot faster than the dredge. Like, the dredge's remnant, basically at any single tile you play him on, you can basically get a free hit at. But it does take a little bit of time. Chucky's, it's a lot faster at it, and in times it can be easier.
And just as long as Wesker's power takes to recharge 2 bounds. But thankfully, you can reduce the cooldown significantly by entering Nightfall.
Keep in mind, the dredge does have a lot more mobility than Wesker and Nurse. Specifically, the Blight, he does have quite a bit of mobility, but when it comes to the cross map, I think the dredge is better than that.
Nightfall is a passive ability unique to Dredge, which adds a unique day-night cycle effect into the game. And while I said it was passive, it charges pretty slow on its own. The significant ways you're meant to charge it is by injuring survivors and leaving them injured.
It doesn't really charge that slowly. Like, is a passive effect, but you're playing the game, you're getting hits with your remnant, you're controlling a section of generators with your teleporting. And then when you're doing that, the more you teleport and the more you use your remnant, you gain it faster and faster. And this is how you normally gain your nightfall, is by teleporting and using your power actually.
Hooking survivors, teleporting to the remnant, or by sitting inside of lockers, which is the fastest way to build
But
your
this
power.
is the main way you'll be
When
getting
Nightfall
your
is
power.
active,
Like
your teleport
50%
speed
will
is
come
massively
from teleporting.
increased. The cooldown of your power is decreased to only 4 seconds,
It increases to 900%. I think it might be like
and you trigger Killer
32
Instinct on
on
nearby
meters, 32
survivors
meters
whenever
or
you
something like
teleport.
that.
Additionally, you become undetectable, which makes it so survivors can't track you without a clear line of sight.
I am the spy.
Survivors can also lock the lockers at any point, which increases the time it takes for you to exit from them, but also makes them completely unusable until it's broken. You can break locks as Dredge
I wouldn't say the completely.
by either hitting them with a basic attack or by exiting the locker while inside of it. Well, now that's all the basics covered, so you notice any problems yet? Don't worry. If you haven't, we're going to go through them one by one now, starting with the teleport. Dredge was very obviously designed to be the teleporting killer. Being able to teleport around the map from anywhere is a pretty big deal. A lot of the best killers in this game have a mobility option that lets them get around the map quickly. So having that be your primary power sounds like it would be pretty strong, right? So then that begs the question, what makes Dredge so weak?
It
Well,
can
as
be
I
really
showed
strong,
before,
especially when
Dredge's
you're in
teleport
Nightfall.
is slow. He only moves
really
at
not
12
that
meters
slow.
per second while teleporting to lockers, which means that even on a small map like Coal Tower, you have to spend several seconds off the map just moving to a locker which you might not even want to be at once you.
See, with the locker, you gotta be careful where you're teleporting to, and it's a really good way to actually check the map to see where survivors are which. So if you don't know where survivors are, it's a really fast and good way to actually check the map, since you can't go through all the tiles and everything. You don't have to go around certain obstacles. You can just go straight through everything, straight to a point where you want. And that's all I really gotta say about that. It's just really not as, it's not that bad as he's making.
To exit. This also means that teleporting to a locker mid-chase is out of the question because it's so slow. That's
Okay, during the daytime, it's really you really won't be teleported to lockers in chase. There's very niche scenarios and very specific lockers that you might teleport to during chase, but you have to be right next to the locker or like directly next to it. Like you can only teleport to a locker if you're 2 meters away from it. I'm talking about 2 meters away from it, right next to it. I think it's 2 meters. It might be three. I think it's two though. But that's only very niche scenarios, and even then, you're not really going to be teleporting to a locker in a chase. You're mainly going to be using your remnant on these tiles.
Survivors can easily react to it. Pretty much the only way you're going to use a locker
Normally, you teleport to a locker to start chase. That's what you normally do to get close to the survivor so you can start the chase.
teleport during a chase is during nightfall because the speed is actually fast enough to catch up to survivors before they can react. And while teleporting to the remnant in chase is very fast, it's kind of a 50-50.
It's really not. See, a lot of people misunderstand the Dredge in that fact that his Revenant is actually not a 50-50. And if you really know what you're doing with the Dredge, it's very easy to mess up with. Don't get me wrong. It's an easy thing to mess up. It's easy to get ahead of yourself. It's easy to mistime something. And but the Dredge is a distance control killer. Basically, on every single tile, if the survivor gets close enough to the Remnant, that's really all you have to do is make sure they get close enough to the remnant so they can't make it back around.
And it slows you down a lot. You'll have to very intentionally try to zone survivors into it, and even if you
Okay, so right here,
remnant
see, a
in
lot of
chase
people
is
just don't
very
understand.
fast, it's
Right
kind of
there,
a
that's a good
50-50,
because
and it
you
slows you down a lot
place it on this corner right here, and then when you go around, let's see if I can replay that.
before they can react. And while
This is a good
teleporting to
remnant
the
because he places it on this side and he goes
remnant in
around.
chase
And then as soon as he can't see the survivor anymore, that means the survivor is right here and your remnant is right over here. As soon as you teleport to your remnant, the survivor will not be able to make it back around the corner to get
is
to the
very
pallet,
fast.
which is
It's kind of
exactly
a
what happened.
50-50, and it slows you down a lot. You'll have to very intentionally try
See
to
right here, you place your remnant over here, and then as you go around the corner, you want to be looking at the survivor. You can see him through these little cracks and see what he's doing, see if he keeps running.
zone survivors into it.
But see, when he teleports, you can see the survivor clearly right here. He's just sitting at the pallet.
And
See, you gotta walk around, and then this is a good remnant right here because if he vaults the pallet, you can teleport and go and hit him. And if he doesn't vault the pallet and keeps going, you can still teleport and hit him. And if he doesn't do anything, you can still hit him when you go around.
even if you do, you might not get anything out of it. And again, using either of these options puts your power on a 12-second cooldown. You
I
can
wish it
almost
was a
achieve
little bit
Bloodlust in that
shorter.
time and it'd be better. So for now, let's
Most of the time, you will not achieve Bloodlust in that time, actually. And it would not be bad because that's only 5% faster, and they can still make a pallet or a window pretty easily with that. But with the Remnant, you just completely cut off the options.
just keep a mental note of all that and move on.
Teleporting to lockers is too slow. Teleporting cooldown is too long. I wish both of these were a little bit faster, but it's really not that bad.
To problem 2.
He can be
Nightfall.
punishing though. The
From
cooldown.
the way I described Nightfall,
I wish the cooldown was shorter. It would make the kill less punishing and more people play it.
you wouldn't really think there's much of a problem with it, but it quickly falls apart when you start comparing it to other killers. The closest example I can provide is
I really wish when you actually got a successful hit, your cooldown would actually like go down faster. When she talks about something like that, not specifically like that, but I'll when he gets to that point, I'll talk about it.
Oni. He's a normal M1 killer that builds up his power over time slowly as well. But here's the thing, Oni earns his power with just 2 basic attacks. And he also makes injured survivors leave blood orbs around the map that he can collect to charge his power even faster. Once he's in his power, he gets access to a high-speed sprint that he can use to get around the map, outplay tiles, and use his insta-down. He also has the appealing benefit of a skill curve to his power.
Okay, so the Dredge, not the Dredge, the Oni with his power, he doesn't have the amount of mobility the Dredge has, and he doesn't have the mobility to just shut down tiles like the Dredge. Like he does have the ability to shut down some tiles and just completely outplay some tiles, but he doesn't have that ability like the Dredge. I do think Oni is a better killer than the Dredge, but really the Dredge's power does not come that slowly. You gain it a lot faster than he says, especially with certain add-ons. The Oni, he can be denied his power for extended long periods of time. He can go the entire game without his power. The Dredge, he has actually has a chase power without his power, so he can place basically counter any loop in the game and get that hit. So you're basically going to be getting hits, which gains charges, and then you're going to be using your power, which gains even more charges. So then you're going to actually be applying pressure and actually have a few injures and be pressuring the survivors and defending your generators very well with your power. And then you gain Nightfall, which then you can basically defend the entire map. And your cooldown's just so much better. Your mobility around the map is map wide. You can be anywhere you want at any second. Your ability to juggle the survivors are so much more better because if the survivors spread out and if they hide, Beta when Oni's in his power, which is what you should do. So that's only going to give him one down. But with the Dredge, it's like map wide, and he's a lot harder to actually sort of hide from him because of his killer instinct. Anyway, moving on. Dog was barking.
Or that players can master over time. Compare this to Dredge.
Okay, so the Dredge is not a very mechanically demanding killer. He does have certain mechanics that is not very mechanically demanding, but he does have mechanics that you need to learn. But the main skill curve with the Dredge is more game sense. That's the word, game sense is the main skill curve to Dredge because of mobility around the map. It's so good, but especially when you're in Nightfall, the more better game sense you have with this killer, you're really going to dominate your matches, especially when you know what survivors are. You can easily juggle between survivors, and then once you get a bunch of people injured, you can easily just snowball and getting the entire team down. That's the main skill is game sense. Since the main skill of the killer is game sense. Oni is definitely more mechanically demanding than the Dredge, but with the Dredge, you do need to know distance. You do need to know how to place your remnants. You do need to know when to teleport to blockers, or is during chase or nightfall, or even outside of nightfall. When can I do this? What kind of player am I versus? So that's all stuff for the Oni too, but he's just more mechanically demanding than the Dredge. But the Dredge does have more mechanics than people think, and his skill level is more game. I can't think of the word, but whatever word I said earlier.
Dredge, who only gets improvements to his
Game
already
sense.
shit power and doesn't have much of a skill curve to it at all.
The skill curve is game sense, mainly game sense. He does have mechanically demanding skill, but it's mainly game sense.
And Nightfall takes several minutes to charge on its own, and boosting
It
it isn't
really
as
doesn't
fast as
take
it is
that.
for Oni. Pretty much the best thing Nightfall has going
Onis can be denied a lot easier. Dredge.
for it is the fact that it's an accessibility issue for survivors. As a
I
survivor,
do
this is
wish
what
it wasn't
Nightfall
like
looks
that.
like without any filters. While I can see just fine, I imagine someone with relatively poor eyesight won't be able to see anything at all.
I wish
And
this was
God forbid they
different.
might be colorblind, losing their vision, playing on a TV in a well-lit room, etc. This can get bad really fast. I don't know why they don't just do something similar to the Lights Out modifier, which has a custom lighting for the entire map. We already know this is possible with killers like Freddy who can control map lighting client side. I feel like this would have been a better option since it gives more consistent lighting across every map and would also give the devs precise control over how much the survivors can see. But that's about all I have to say.
Okay, so Nightfall benefits are enough because people don't realize how strong the benefits can be, and how much control you have over the map with those benefits. I do wish the cooldown might be a little bit faster, maybe. I think Nightfall's kind of fine. Nightfall, I do wish it charged faster. It can be slowly, but it's really not that bad, and I wish this was different for people that can't see and just don't have a good setup. I wish that was different, and it really doesn't play into gameplay as much with people that don't have that stuff because they just know the map, they know the layout. It doesn't really play that much.
Say about Nightfall, so let's move on to the next topic. counterplay. So on top of all the other problems I mentioned, Dredge also has an abundance of built-in counterplay. As I mentioned at the start, you can lock lockers.
This what makes him a really balanced killer is every killer needs counterplay.
As a survivor at any point, which might as well turn off Dredge's power for the entire game until they're broken. If Dredge
It's really not that bad when you lock lockers. It's really not that bad, and you're not going to be teleporting to every single locked locker. You're going to be teleporting to a few locked lockers, and then you break them. You still teleport to the area you wanted, but the survivors got a 3-second head start, or they're just gone, and you got to kick the gen, and or like if they get a 3-second head start, you have to chase them, and then by that time they'll probably just sit in out of tile anyway. So then you'll have your power back, and you can just use your revenant all over again. But really, you don't. Let's say there's 20 lockers, and they lock all 20 of them. You're not going to teleport to all 20 of them. You're mainly going to be teleporting to lockers in sections specifically. So the best example is Shack. There's 2 lockers in Shack, one by the doorway and one by the window.
teleports to a locked locker,
if we
he's
get better
pretty
view.
much useless. It takes him so long to come out, and he makes so much noise that survivors
Okay, I think it's
can
right
easily see it coming and make.
Okay, so locker here. Let's say the survivor locks both of them. Teleport. You come out of the one at the door, or you break out. Now you can either break the other one by the window, which I normally do, or you can just completely ignore it for the rest of the game. And it doesn't matter because now every time you want to go to that generator, you teleport to the one at the doorway every single time. Now, let's say the survivor doesn't lock both of them. Let's say they lock the one by the window. You teleport over there. You come out of either one. You either teleport to the one that's locked, or as soon as you like start teleporting to the one that's locked, you'll see that it's locked, so you can instantly teleport to the other one. Be ready. But as soon as you exit the locker, you can break the one at by the window, and then for now on, you'll be teleporting to that locker. So it's kind of lockers in sections, and you will probably only teleport to around at most 6 locked lockers when you're in the daytime anyway. It'll probably be like 3 or 4 at most. So it's really not as bad as what people think it is, and it's really not that long. It does kind of feel bad. I wish it was a little bit quicker to encourage more people to play them, but really not that bad.
Enough distance. But why bother?
And then when you're in Nightfall, because of your cooldown, you just break through the locker, and then you basically instantly teleport again. And that's why Destroyed Pillow is so good at just getting rid of lockers, because just in Nightfall is just not really a big deal, and then Destroyed Pillow just makes it even less of a big deal.
With placing the locks when he's already slow enough coming out of them as is. I mean, just look at this clip where I teleport nearly on top of this Claudette and she still makes enough distance to make a pallet. This killer's power is so non.
I think he probably actually could have got that hit, actually. But this is a thing to learn with the Dredge, knowing when to teleport to the lockers and stuff like that. And just to really keep an eye on the survivor when you're teleporting. Like you can move around, you can move your camera around when you're teleporting, so you aren't as like was confused when you come out of the locker, and you'll be able to see the survivor, and you can basically lunge immediately. I wish it was maybe a little bit shorter, because there is times I thought for sure I'd get the hit, but it's just a little bit too long and I didn't get the hit. It would be nice if it was a little shorter. But it does definitely need this counterplay to it, so the survivors have actually enough time to react to it when you're in Nightfall anyway. But maybe in the daytime it doesn't. Or maybe it can just get rid of it. You can move it and something. That would probably be fine. Maybe not though. Maybe not. I might make the Dredge too easy to play, and then too easy to get the hits on. Too easy to get the hits. You won't be able to really react to it at all. So probably not. Probably make it a little bit shorter, but that's it.
Non-threatening that I don't even understand why it has the lock counterplay in the first place. And you might
To allow survivors to react. But most of the time, if you do it right, you'll get the hit anyway.
Start wondering, well, what about Nightfall? Don't you get free undetectable during Nightfall? And while that's true, the undetectable is practically useless because you're also playing one of the most noisy characters in the game. Take a quick listen at this footage. I'm sure you can hear the whooshing sound by now.
I do wish this wasn't like this. I wish it was a lot quieter. But really, that doesn't really matter because you're not going to spend your time sneaking up on survivors, especially when you're in Nightfall. You're going to be using your teleporting and your map mobility as much as you can in Nightfall, and your remnant as much as you can. So it really doesn't matter because you're just going to teleport right on the survivor anyway, and they'll know you there anyway from the locker slam. So it really doesn't matter. And then another thing that people talk about with this is you can hear the dredge through walls when you're playing in tiles and stuff. So he can't mind game, but that really simply doesn't matter because the dredge has his remnant. And if you use the remnant properly, you'll basically, it doesn't matter if the survivor knows where you are. It matters if you know where the survivor is and understand where the distance between the remnant and the survivor.
And that sound follows you wherever you walk during Nightfall. It follows you around like a mini terror radius, making you audible through walls and floors easily. Not to mention the constant squelching and meaty sounds you make all the time, regardless of whether
Like most of the time, you're gonna be teleporting to lockers.
you're in
You're not
Nightfall
gonna
or
be walking
not.
around
It's extremely creepy and well
trying
done
to sneak
sound
up on
design,
people.
but it just doesn't work right for a PvP video game. This is supposed to be a jump scare character, but since you can hear him at all times, it kind of reduces the scare factor a lot. And honestly, that's just really unfortunate.
I do wish he was quieter, but it really doesn't matter that he's loud. Coming out of lockers ain't really that slow. If you know how to use your power well, it's really not that bad, and it does give the survivors some counterplay, which they need. Lockers are free counterplayer. It's really not a bad power. It's really not. It's a lot better than people really give it credit for, especially when you're in Nightfall. It's a lot stronger than people really uh give it credit to for whatever.
And would you believe me if I said I hadn't even gotten to the worst part yet? It's been sitting in front of us the whole time. I've mentioned it, but I never pointed it out. That's right. This killer's power is also completely reliant on locker RNG. Let's be real.
Okay, so the thing with the locker RNG problem really ain't that bad anymore. A lot of maps really have really good locker coverage. So it's really not that bad. And what you really want with the dredge is sections like lockers in specific sections, like coal tower, clock callouts, 12, 6, 11, and all that. You got lockers up in 10, and 10 controls 11 and 8. No, not 11, 8, 11 and 9. There's lockers in 8, which controls 7 and 8. There's lockers at Killer Shack, which controls 6, a little bit of bottom mid. And there's lockers at 5, which control 4. There's lockers at 3, which control 4, 2, and 2 has lockers as well, which control 1 and 3. Yeah, and then there's a building in the water tower has lockers on it, which can help you control the mid. So you don't really need the entire map covered in lockers. You just really need specific lockers in certain sections of the map, and a lot of maps have that.
When you started watching, you probably didn't assume Dredge was that bad. But at this point, now you're questioning how it could get any worse. I mean, the way I described it, you would think even if locker placements were perfect, this killer's power would still be shit. But locker spawns are also entirely unreliable, depending.
They are reliable. You can see how the lockers is spawned. You can see the direction where you're gonna be teleporting, and with the locker spawns, you can tell what loop it is too.
On what map you're on. Most maps probably have at least a couple lockers.
Really, the locker dead zones ain't that bad, and this really isn't that much of a dead zone. You got lockers over here that help you control it. You got lockers up here which you can teleport to and vault the window, which help you control this bottom area right here.
Dead zones where you just won't be able to patrol the gens, exit gates, or
Okay, and especially certain locker dead zones are in corners. So I could teleport to this locker and this locker, and then the survivor will be working on this gen in the corner, which then I'll have my remnant up, and the corner's the deadliest place to be against the dredge. That's basically a free hit. There's basically nothing you can do. to counter that, depending on the loops and stuff. So that's basically a free hit right there. So really not that big of a deal, and these lockers help you control it a little bit. It's really not
Rooms
that
that are
big.
nearby. And God forbid you're
You want lockers in section.
chasing
It's okay
somebody
to
and you
have a
just broke a
couple dead
pallet and
zones.
you want to teleport to catch back up to them. Oops, sorry, fucker. There's no
Yeah, this
locker
would
over
be another
there.
dead zone.
Gotta walk all the way up. And it's at this point that I start wondering why I'm not playing a different killer. And I don't want to.
Yeah, just sometimes you do have to commit manually to the chase. Which you do, which is the sad part, but there's some killers. You Most of the time the survivor will get to another tile soon, and then you'll just have your power up and you can use it, or you can just completely ignore that survivor depending on the situation and just completely disappear somewhere else.
Sound like I just hate Dredge and think he's terrible. There's just so many parts of his kit and design that are way worse than they should be, and I don't think that's fair to him. I rarely see anyone else talk about killers in this
So it's really not that bad on the Dredge. I know I keep saying that, but
deconstructive way like this, so I wanted to give it a try on a killer that not a lot of people talk about, but I see significant flaws in. But hey, if you watched this far, I'm actually curious to hear if you have any ideas how to fix Dredge. I'm not too confident in my Dredge ideas since I'm not a Dredge player and I'm not as passionate about him as I am about Trickster, but I just want to try to get a conversation going about Dredge since I feel like he's been forgotten over time. So, let's get into the solution segment now, so I can try to get Dredge up to par with better killers.
he really isn't that bad. But let's see your solutions. But what I'm talking about, like, this is a really made video. Like, some of the points he does make are good points, but it's really not as bad as people think.
I think the most important thing to take into account when buffing Dredge is that his power is always going to be map reliant, regardless of what you do. Since he's teleporting,
The most important thing is to keep him fun for everybody involved playing against him and playing as him. This is what I think is the most important thing. Right now, he's one of the most balanced killers in the game, plenty of counterplay, and I believe he's one of the most fun killers.
to lockers, that means the maps have to have good locker placements. And I don't
Which most of the maps do have good locker placement. You want lockers in sections. The only maps that really don't is Badham, though kind of struggles in. The worst map in the game for the Dredge is the Shelter Woods maps. Those are the worst maps in the game for the Dredge, is how little coverage they actually have. So I wish they would buff that and add more lockers overall to the maps. But really, most of the maps are really nice maps for the Dredge, and just good what's the word? I don't know, good locker section.
think that's necessarily a problem. I just don't think the locker teleports should also be incredibly weak. So I'm going to start by improving his locker teleports
They're
first.
really not that weak.
The first thing I
Especially if
suggest
you're
is to
Nightfall.
decrease the time it takes to exit lockers by around 20%, regardless of whether it's locked or unlocked. This wouldn't
That would be okay. It's really not that bad, especially if you really know how to use it. You just gotta learn how to use it well, and most of the time you're gonna be using your Revenant anyway.
save you
But that
much
would be
time
nice.
overall, but it would just make it so precise teleports are more likely to result in a hit than they are currently, which I think is good.
Precise
I think it's pretty much
teleports
always a good thing to make
mostly
changes
do
that
result in.
benefit people who are accurate with their powers. The next thing I would do is increase his teleport speed to 25 meters per second while outside of Nightfall, and round his teleport speed during Nightfall up to 40 meters per second. Map
I don't know if that's too much. Oh, it's 38, not 32. I said it was 32 earlier, I think. But 12 meters, I don't know what that is. Maybe increase, it's at 360 is the percent, I believe. You can increase it to 400 or like 425 would be nice. Increases the nightfall teleporting speed. It's already at 900%, which is just insanely fast. It really doesn't need to be much faster. It really doesn't. People don't realize how fast it actually is. It really doesn't that much faster.
and round his
Maybe turn it to 16 or 18 probably. I don't know if that's what that is. Maybe 20. I don't think 25. I don't know what 25 is, but that's a bit more. Maybe 20 or like 18. But this doesn't really need change at all. This can stay.
Teleport
It
speed
doesn't need to
during
be faster.
nightfall
It's
up to
already
40 meters per
insanely
second.
fast.
Map traversal that is also map reliant should not be slow, so I decided to make it
It's really not that map, and it's really not that.
incredibly fast during and outside of nightfall to compensate
Nightfall
for the
is
fact that the
insane.
locker placements are just not going to be perfect on every map you play on. But as long as the teleport speed is fast enough to be worth using, then that should be enough, I think. My final change to
I think
locker
it is
teleports is
now.
a bit more experimental, but I think it could help Dredge a lot. I would make it so when he teleports to a locker, he gets a brief boost of speed, just like Sadako does when she teleports to a
No,
TV. This would make
no,
teleporting
no. That can't be a thing. That can't be a thing with Dredge. Dredge is not like Sadako. Sadako has specific TVs in specific certain areas, because you can zone survivors into it and do that and get the hit. But with the Dredge, pretty much every single tile with the Dredge, there's a locker pretty much at every single tile, every single kind of tile or near a tile. There's basically a locker right next to it. This will basically make the Dredge very boring to go against, because as soon as he teleports to a locker, or that's basically a free hit. If you talk about Sadako speeds, you really don't want that. That's going to be a free hit basically any single time if the survivor gets close to the locker. That's a free hit. Not even close to the locker. They can be a little bit away from it, and that's a free hit still. So that can't come.
to lockers to down and injure survivors not only more
That would
effective,
just
but also
make the Dredge a lot more boring.
more fun to do because you would get those big lunges coming out of lockers that are really fun. It would also kind of make up for maps with bad locker positioning by making it so you don't
It would be really fun. I would really like that as a Dredge. It'll be a blast. It would be really fun, but you gotta nerf him somewhere. You gotta like get rid of the Revenant, something like that. After that, but you can't do that. That would be too strong, and I don't think people would really enjoy going against that. But maybe I'm wrong. I might be completely.
lose too much distance when you teleport to a locker that's too far from where you're trying to go. So that's all the changes I would make to locker teleports, so I'm going to move on to Nightfall and Lock.
See, like right here, all you have to do is teleport to that, and then they don't make that palette. They don't make that palette. But where normally you would have to time it specifically when you're going to teleport to that, or place your remnant in a certain way.
Locks now. The first thing I do is to decrease the charge requirement to activate Nightfall to 180 charges instead of the current 300. So not only would
But then if you do see right there, you would have to time it specifically to get the hit. But with the changes, you wouldn't have to time it. You can just like see if they're double backing, and then if they're not, you can teleport them. I might be wrong. That might be a bad.
180 charges instead of the current
Maybe decrease it to. I don't know if you should decrease it. Maybe just increase the overall charges you get when you're teleporting. Maybe to like 7 or 8, and then the overall charges you get from hits to like 25. I don't know. Maybe not decrease it to 180. Maybe like uh 230 or something. Probably more like 250. I don't think it's 80. I think that's too quick. See, 4 hits. Get 4 hits. That's your power.
300.
I don't
So
know. I
not
think
only
that
would
would be
this
too
make
quick.
Nightfall's
Well, not your power, but 80 charges. That's not even. You hit a survivor, you down them. So you hit a survivor with your remnant. That's 30 charges. You chase them more. That's down them with your remnant. That's 60 charges. And you hook them, then that's 80 charges. And then help with another survivor. It takes you 3 seconds, 4 seconds. Let's say it takes you 3 seconds. That's 18 charges. You get a hit on that survivor, or wait, and you get a remnant, so that's 30 charges. Say, and then you down them again with your remnant. That's basically I don't know. I feel like that's too quick. And then you can, and then that's not even getting hits. Like say you're just constantly teleporting, constantly spreading the pred. I don't know. I don't like it.
Passive charge rate
I don't
way
think it should
faster
be
than
that
it
quick.
is right now. This would
Or
also
maybe
make
it might
every
be
basic
okay.
attack and hook you get much
I don't
more
know.
impactful when it comes to charging Nightfall. But I don't really like powers that charge passively without you having to do something to earn them, so I would also decrease the charge bonus you get for injured survivors to half a charge a second instead of 3/4 of a charge per second. This doesn't really change much in practice, but it just compensates for how much I lowered the initial activation condition to begin with. I also
Maybe
made
that
another
might.
change to
I don't. I
Nightfall
feel
that
like that
brought
might
out
be
the
too
horror
quick.
aspects more while also improving the gameplay loop. This was to make it so you could only apply locks during Nightfall, and they would also deactivate when Nightfall ends. When I say
Really, night locks during nightfall ain't really that big of a deal at all. And then some actually locks on lockers need to be a thing, or the dredge is just gonna get a hit anytime you teleport to a gen. I don't like that change personally because there's just some generators that you need locks on the locker, or the dredge is just gonna get a free hit. So you basically can't work on that gen, and or you just gotta have perfect callouts, or just be in the swift. I don't really like. I feel like that just makes certain gens too dangerous. That's why the double locks and lockers are fine because just certain gens are very dangerous. And then once you eat through that lockers, I think that's okay.
they deactivate, I don't mean they break, I just mean they would disarm themselves and you have to
And then lockers at Nightfall, just really, who cares? They're not that big of a deal at all.
reapply them next time Nightfall starts. They would still permanently break if the Dredge breaks them himself, but otherwise they would be fine. This would make Nightfall much more of a chaotic time where survivors have to scramble to lock all the doors because Dredge's teleports during this time are much faster and he can do them more often. Compare that to now where survivors can just lock the doors at any time whenever it's convenient and it's not really that scary at all. And believe it or not, I don't have anything to change about the Remnant. I think it
Uh,
provides cool gameplay opportunities and is very unique to Dredge, but it doesn't have any real problems that stick out that would need a buff. But the last thing I'm
Remnant's
going to
fine.
change about Dredge's stats is a rework to his teleport cooldown. Instead of just having a flat 12-second cooldown every time you use a teleport, I opted to give him a token recharge system similar to how Bubba's power.
Okay, this is something I don't know if I've ever said this in a video, but this is something I've actually thought and wanted for the dredge. Is a dredge to be a token-based killer instead of a cooldown-based. But just like this, you got 3 tokens, and at the start of the game, you can do the 12 seconds. Don't get your power to 12 seconds in, but but then after that, every other time you use your power, once you use your power or whatever, you whenever you come out of a locker or use your remnant, it still takes all of your tokens away. But you charge tokens every 4 seconds. So if you, let's say you come out of a locker, 4 seconds later you can teleport to another locker, but then you don't have the rest of your tokens. So this would help you if you get a hit with your remnant, and as soon as you're done wiping your blade, you can teleport to a locker and be instantly cutting them off, or instantly be defending a gen or something. Think that would be really nice for the dredge. But I don't. What he says is just every token. I think it should be I'm not making any. But once you have 1 token, you can teleport to lockers, but you cannot use your remnant unless if you have 2 tokens. So it's still 8 seconds. And so if you mess up chasing a survivor, or you could either leave in 4 seconds, or you can sit and wait the 8 seconds and gain the hit. It just makes it the dredge still punishing, but not as punishing as he was. I think it should be like 8 seconds to because you still should be punished. Use your power poorly, and he just wouldn't be that fun to go against. Just didn't get punished.
Works, where every 4 seconds you get 1 token that you can use for any teleport, whether to the Remnant or to lockers. This would actually encourage Dredge players to use their power more often, and by
So like, if you have 2 tokens, use your remnant, and any other, if you have a token, you can just teleport.
extension, get better at using their power, which I think is a good thing. Abilities with long
I think it
cooldowns
would be a
only
good.
encourage players to do the most safe.
But he's saying that you have tokens. I've already talked about all this.
safe option available at the time, which in this case would just result in more zoning with the remnant, which isn't really fun for anyone. When players have the option to
What do you
use
say?
their teleport more frequently, which in this case would just result in more often and by extension get better at using their power, which I think is a good thing. Abilities with long cooldowns only encourage players to do the most safe option available at the time, which in this case would just result in more zoning with the remnant, which isn't really fun for anyone. When players
I think in certain situations it can be fun. I think it's a nice little different way to play the game. I think it's fun. I think it has plenty of counterplay. There's certain things you can do to actually counter it, and it's just I find it more fun than just the normal stuff,
Players have the
and
option to
it's
use their
different.
teleport more frequently. That means they will use their teleport more frequently, which is good. And that's about all I have to say on the stats of Dredge's base kit, but I would also appreciate if the devs maybe looked at the nightfall lighting as well, like I mentioned earlier. Maybe doing something similar to the lights out modifier, or maybe even something like this. Can you just imagine running around
I don't think it should be like this for the Dredge. Definitely for the Survivor, but the Dredge, I think, should keep his clear
in a
vision.
map when it's this dark out? I think this would really bring out some creepy moments. But if this is too dark, then maybe we can try something like this. I mean, just look how nice this looks. This is really pleasant to look at, and it's dark out, which would signify that it's nightfall. And fuck it, the sky's the limit, why not make a daytime version as well? If you're gonna have a day-night cycle power, it would actually be cool to have a proper looking day-night cycle in the game. I understand that's a lot of effort, but it would really amplify the aesthetic of this killer to a whole new level. And the last thing I do to Dredge is decrease the volume of the sound effects he produces as he's walking, just as, you know, one little quality of life
That wouldn't
bonus.
be a bad choice.
But now I'll move on to add-ons too, since it's only fair that I leave some ideas on the
The
table
add-on.
to go with my base kit that I suggested. First things first, we've got Fallen Shingle, which increases Nightfall's charge rate by 15% while you're holding your power. Dredge has several Nightfall charge
Not while you're holding your power. That's not how it works. While you're teleporting between lockers, it increases it by 15%.
rate add-ons.
This is an underrated add-on for the Dredge. People thinks it's a lot worse than it is. And another add-on, which is actually overrated, is Burnt Letters. Burnt Letters and Fallen Shingles have such a small effect, and they're so similar. Like when you're teleporting, you get six charges a second. This basically makes it 7 charges, and then Burnt Letters, when you injure a survivor, you gain 5 extra charges. So normally you gain 20 charges, and then with Burnt Letters, you gain 5 charges. So if you get 2 hits, that's your remnant. So that's basically what it is. But with Fallen Shingles, you're always going to be teleporting. You teleport. You're not always going to be injuring survivors. You're not going to sometimes not be able to do that. Depending on some maps, maybe you will be able to use your remnant to get the hits, but it won't be always injuring the survivors. So you spend 4 seconds teleporting. That's 4 extra seconds, 4 extra charges. And then let's say you hit survivor. Let's say you hit a survivor. You gain 20 charges. Is let's say you teleported over there, where you got 4 extra charges. Teleport for 4 seconds. 3 seconds. Teleport for 3 seconds. You gain 3 extra charges to go with your 18. Then you use your remnant. You gain the hit. So then you continue chasing them, and then you down them. Now with burnt letters, you would have got 5 charges, and then you would have hooked them. But with a fallen shingle, you down them, you hook them, and then you start teleporting again. When you get and you gain 3 more charges because you teleported for 3 more seconds, or you teleport for 2 seconds, and then you go. You got your 5 or 6 charges, which it can be better because then you got 6 charges. See how fallen shingle can be better than burnt letters, but sometimes you just don't have the ability to teleport as much. You're working on maps like Shelter Woods. So it's just whichever one is your favorite. They both have kind of similar effect. It's very minor and kind of just the same effect. I do think Fallen Shingles might be a little bit better.
And I think
Maybe a
this
little
one
bit.
is the worst of the bunch because it only affects a short period of time and it's
See, like I said, it's an underrated add-on, and I don't think a lot of people actually understand how this add-on works. But his worst charge add-on is actually Wooden Plank, Brown add-on, Plank. And I do think Fallen Shingle might be better than Burnt Letters, might be the same.
It's a minimal amount. If you watched my Trickster video, you'll know I'm not a big fan of duplicate add-ons, so I try to get rid of them when I can find them. And for this one, I decided to give it a new
I don't
effect,
think
which
this is a
increases the duration
very
of the
bad add-on.
movement
I
speed
say
bonus when
the
exiting a locker by 25%.
okay, that would just be absolutely broken. That would be like his best add-on. Mix even the lockers are more deadly, and the survivors have even less counterplay. I think that cannot be an add-on, especially with the changes. I don't think that can be an add-on. If it is, it has to be iridescent, something like that. But I think the add-on is fine right now. I think the numbers could be buffed a little bit, maybe 2 or maybe even 3 charges, but maybe buff it to 2 charges, maybe.
This is basically just a toned down version of Bloody Fingernails for Sadako, but for Dredge, which means I don't really have to explain it that
I think
much.
that
Next up, we have another add-on that I don't have much to say about, Hattie's Calendar, which decreases the time it takes to exit a locked locker by 1 second. This is a simple change. Since I already made the add-on partially base kit, I'll just tone down the add-on's effect to 0.5 seconds.
I think if you're gonna make the add-on partially base kit, you should not have the other half of the add-on. Right now, I think this is an overrated add-on. People think it's a lot better than it actually is. It's really not that good. And if you're gonna add half of the base kit, I don't think you should have the other half, because then this is just a useless add-on for an extra zero point 0.5 seconds. It really wouldn't be that useful at all. Even now, it's not. It's not really that useful. It's just a nice add-on.
To match. Next up is Malthinker's Skull, which increases the charge rate of Nightfall per injured survivor by 66%. This add-on is currently incredibly strong due to just how much it increases Nightfall's charge rate, but since I made Nightfall charge so fast already, I don't want this to be a meta pick the way it is right now. That said, I did a pretty simple change where I just decreased the charge rate bonus from 66% to 50%. And that might not sound like a lot when I write it down like that, but since that's a lower percent of a lower number, it's actually a more significant downgrade than you'd think, going from 1.25 charges per second per injured survivor down to just 0.75 charges per second per injured survivor.
I don't think anybody would add on after that. I think honestly, you should probably just keep add on the same. Maybe not. Probably keep. I don't know. I just don't think you should decrease the charges by that much. And I think people being injured is fine. Encourage snowballing. Maybe not encourage snowballing. I don't know. I think his add-on's fine. Maybe add a little bit of it to base kit.
Next up
I
is
don't know.
War
I think
Helmet,
that's a
which increases
add-on.
the duration
I
of
think that's
Killer
okay
Instinct caused by your
actually.
teleports during
If
Nightfall
you
by
add
1.5
all the other
seconds.
stuff.
Let's be honest here, has anyone ever run a Killer Instinct duration add-on?
This is probably one of the Dredge's worst add-ons. Not probably. It is. Uh, bottom 2 or 3. Probably second worst add-on I have. Second
On
add-on.
any killer? I'm pretty sure the answer is no. And the reason for that is that Killer Instinct durations are usually fine the way they are, and that's no different for Dredge. So instead, I decided to borrow an effect from a later add-on, which causes survivors who come into contact with the Remnant to become exhausted for 15 seconds.
Okay, I believe doing that makes this add-on probably worse. Probably worse. Because survivors should not be running into Remnant. Survivors should never be able to run into Remnant. You should never make that mistake. So I think this is a terrible add-on. Still useless.
This is a simple and relatively niche, but also strong effect that I think would fit this
It's
rarity
really
just
not
fine.
strong.
And it
It's
also means that
completely
I don't have
useless.
to come up with a unique add-on effect, which I suck at. Next
I
is
wish you would.
Automarian Right.
I wish maybe you would have done something like in Nightfall you gain, or maybe not even in Nightfall. Teleport hit. Once you do a teleport hit, your the survivor you hit has a sloppy butcher effect. Which I wish that was Tillian Blade. I wish Tillian Blade was if you hit a survivor with a teleport hit, which does nothing right now. I wish you got some reward for it. Well, if you hit a survivor with a teleport hit, it they gain sloppy butcher and all that other stuff, whatever else it has. I don't remember what else it has. Maybe you could, I don't know, just maybe even increase the killer instinct to like 6 seconds. I don't know. I just don't think it's a really good add-on like that. I don't know. I think it would just be more useless just now. It'll be a useless
which
add-on.
decreases teleport recharge time by 4 seconds when Nightfall is inactive. I really like this add-on because it lets you teleport more often, but
It is a right now. It's definitely one of the best Dredge's best add-ons right now. It's a really good add-on. Being able to use your power more, which means you can gain charges more, and just be have less punish or less punish. I think this is the second best add-on to gain charges. I do think Mouthinker's Skull might be a little better still, or maybe this might be better because you're just not as punished.
it obviously
Power.
wouldn't work with the token recharge system that I suggested, so I give it a minor rework to compensate for that. Now it would instead decrease the recharge time of each token by 1 second when Nightfall
I
is
think that
inactive. This one's
mm,
pretty
would that be okay though? I think that might.
simple, it doesn't fundamentally change
I
too
think that
much,
might be
and
okay.
it
Maybe
maintains its
point
appeal,
five.
which is a good thing, I think.
Maybe point five.
Next is Destroyed Pillow, which
I don't
acts
know.
as an
It might be
opposite of
okay like that.
Automarian writing and decreases the teleport recharge time by 2.5 seconds during Nightfall. The only reason I'm even suggesting a change to this one is because it wouldn't work with the base kit I suggested, but otherwise it's fine. I decided to take the lazy route yet again and borrow another effect from a later add-on, this time increasing the teleport speed outside of Nightfall by 5 meters per second. This
I do think Destroyed Pillow is a very underrated add-on, and it's really fun. I really like it. It's probably my favorite add-on for Dredge. Increases the teleporting speed by. Okay, so what he did earlier is add boat. Okay, he added boat key. Okay, that would be fine. Adding a part of boat key to the base kit. I guess that would be fine. Maybe I don't know. I guess you could do that. I kind of wish you would do something else though. I wish this would have a different effect.
would just be a simple, good add-on. Not much else to say. Next up is boat.
So earlier maybe he didn't do that. 5 meters. Is it 5 meters? Crap. If you add boat key to base kit, I think that's fine because boat key, yeah, that would be fine.
Boat Key, which increases teleport speed outside of Nightfall
I don't think if you're gonna add boat key to basement, the short pillow should not be another boat key. It needs to be nerfed instead of.
by 5 meters per second, and also causes all active locks to immediately break when all generators are completed. Now you're starting to see where I copied homework from, so let's just get into the rework. My reworked version removed the teleport speed bonus, but made it so whenever Nightfall ends, all active locks are permanently broken, instead of when the exit gates are powered. This would just
Mm, that might be. I think that's.
be a particularly good time save add-on since you wouldn't have to worry about breaking the locks yourself. Plus, the threat of this add-on would make survivors have to be much more careful about what lockers they actually put locks on, because if they
I just feel like you should since Dredge is such a different killer, you got a lot of ideas with the Dredge.
put a lock on a locker that you don't end up using, they might get screwed later. Next up, we have Field Recorder, which causes Nightfall to automatically activate at the start of the trial and when all generators are repaired. It also causes survivors who come into contact with the Remnant to become exhausted for 15 seconds. There's nothing wrong with this add-on, but since I borrowed that last effect for an earlier add-on, I don't see a reason for it to stay on this one. So for my rework, I just removed that part, and we're gonna move on to the next.
Honestly, I don't even think it should have that part. That part's useless anyway. So this is fine. This is definitely one of the Dredge's best add-ons. It is now. Anyway, it's one of his best add-ons.
One. The final add-on
Top three.
is Iridescent Wooden Plank, which causes all survivors to become exposed for the last 12 seconds of night.
This add-on is I wish did something completely different. I do not like exposed effect add-ons. This add-on is definitely people don't realize how good this add-on is. So basically at the end of your nightfall, the last 12 seconds, which you know exactly when 12 seconds, like if you ran this add-on before, you can or like played against a dredge with this add-on, you will see where the 12-second mark is, so you'll know exactly. So basically this add-on is just you getting instant down on survivors for 12 seconds, and you know exactly when it's going to be. So this add-on, if you're having trouble during the match and you have trouble getting pressure with your nightfall, this add-on allows you to gain even more pressure and completely change the game around. Which I don't like. I don't like exposed add-ons. I don't think they should exist.
Nightfall. This add-on is really gimmicky as you only benefit from the last couple seconds of Nightfall.
which you know exactly when the seconds are gonna be, and it's just to like help you gain that extra push, or just like say if you're really struggling, this add-on can really completely turn around a game. And if you know how to use it well, you basically every match you'll gain one or two downs add-on alone,
Which means you either have to
which I
wait
don't like.
until then for an insta-down or just get lucky. I decided to keep the exposed effect, but rework
If you know where survivors are and if you have really good game sense, like if you have unbelievably good game sense with this add-on, it's not luck. It's just over. Yes.
it into something that was more practical and always useful. The new effect I gave it is so that when you teleport to a locker, survivors within 12 meters of it become exposed for 8 seconds. This would make locker teleports in Chase very dangerous, but since it activates when you actually teleport inside the locker, it would give survivors some time to get away, and would also give more benefits to locking the lockers since it would take longer to come out and thereby
I don't like that at all. Especially with the other chains that he had earlier. That is a right now it wouldn't be a very bad one. I still wouldn't like it. It would be kind of gimmicky because you don't really get a lot of locker hits when you're in daytime anyway. It'll just make the nightfall overwhelming, I think. Especially with the change he wants to do when you come out of a locker, you gain a speed boost. No. Like with the speed boost, it's gonna be making loops unplayable. With this, it'll just basically if you go to a loop, you get instant down.
run out the exposed timer more. And that's it. I don't really have anything else to say about Dredge at this point. I'm really curious to see what you fellas have to say about this character because I had a lot of fun making this video. I hope as I keep doing these kind of videos, I can open conversations on characters that not a lot of people talk about. I know when it comes to behavior that dev time isn't infinite and not all killers are going to get very much love these days, but at the very least, a man can dream, you know? If you want to see more videos
You
like this,
can.
please do consider leaving a comment, liking, subscribing, hitting all the bells and
All right, it's the end of the video. Check the guy out, Zozo. Check him out. I really enjoyed this video. I really like talking about him. This talking about the dredge. There's a lot of people just don't understand it at all. Just people don't get him. Just well, anyway, that's my thoughts. I don't think he's as bad as this guy says. He's better than a lot of people give him credit for. Yeah, he does need some changes, but he doesn't really need that big of a changes. Right now, he's just pretty balanced killer. There's little things that needs to be done with, and even then, you could just leave him as he is, and he'll still be fine. But it would be nice to do these changes and encourage more people to play him. But anyway, that's it.